So this man caught his neighbor chopping down his tree without permission, so he rushed outside to find out why. But the neighbor ignored him as he chopped away at the tree. The man begged him to stop, but the neighbor kept going, and he was swinging the axe so vigorously that the man thought it too great a risk to intervene. So he stood by helplessly and watched as his pleas went unanswered. Meanwhile, he had no idea what triggered this and was determined to find out why. Then, sweaty and exhausted, the neighbor paused about halfway through the tree, so the man swooped in and yanked the axe out of his neighbor's hand. Now he had his attention. "What are you doing?" the man demanded. "I'm just cutting this tree," the neighbor insisted. "What makes you think you can go around cutting other people's trees?" the man snapped, tears flooding his eyes as he observed the damage. Seeing that the indent was halfway through the tree, he doubted the tree would survive. "It's on my property," the man continued, "and I'll see to it that you pay for this. Now I demand to know why." To this, the neighbor only laughed. "I've looked at the property lines," he jeered, "and it turns out this tree is halfway on my property, so I cut it halfway. But even if that's true, why would you do this?" the man pleaded. "Because it's been shedding leaves on my yard for years, so I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission." The neighbor folded his arms. "You can forget about forgiveness," the man fumed as he stormed back inside. His neighbor knew this would surely kill the tree. Now, the man wanted to get even. So the very next day, he put up a fence. On his side, a beautiful brown finish. But on the side facing his neighbor's house, he painted it bright pink. "That ought to show him," he huffed. But he was shocked to find his neighbor painting the entire side of his house pink that very same afternoon. The side facing the man's house. "Must be an eyesore looking over at this," the neighbor jeered. So the man took things one step further, venturing to the scrapyard and hauling back as much junk as he could. Old tires, rusty box springs, you name it. Then he stacked the junk high on his own property so his neighbor couldn't miss it. An even worse eyesore than the pink. So the neighbor responded by setting up large party inflatables, an equal eyesore, and the feud continued back and forth. And because the neighbors were each keeping to their own property, there was nothing the other could do. This pattern continued until one day, the neighbor from across the street, an arborist, ventured over. "Out of curiosity, why the pink fence and the garbage and the badly hurt tree?" the arborist asked. "Well, you see, he chopped half of my favorite tree," the man grumbled, "and now it will surely die. So I decided to get even." The bewildered arborist stroked her chin. "Get even?" she puzzled. "Is that why you spent your hard-earned money on this half-pink fence and littered your yard with junk and killed all of the grass beneath it?" "That's exactly why," the man folded his arms. "Well, he shouldn't have done that to your tree," the arborist reasoned. "But all this time, I think your tree has been trying to tell you something." The man raised an eyebrow as she continued. "You see, this particular type of tree is quite resilient and can live a long and healthy life despite damage like this," she said. "But it achieves this not by dwelling on the damaged part, but by channeling water and nutrients through the healthy areas that remain. Then it grows and grows until what was once a deep cut seems more like a scratch." As the man surveyed his property, including the fence, the junk, and the dead grass, he realized that he had only been hurting himself all along. And while he couldn't undo his neighbor's actions, he could choose how he responded to it. Before the arborist ventured back to her side of the street, she turned to the man one last time. "Just remember," she said, "there's nothing those who wrong us despise more than when their actions have little effect on us. This tree will drive them mad for simply living its best life. Now, it's time for you to do the same."